In this lesson, we will use the Azure Data Explorer platform to assess organizational security. Welcome to the ADX segment in our video series. This lesson is a step toward getting you ready for the KC7 Cyber Platform, an exciting and hands-on approach to learning cybersecurity. Before we jump into KC7, let's take a closer look at Azure Data Explorer, ADX. So what is ADX? Let's find out. ADX is a cloud-based analytics service designed for exploring and analyzing large volumes of diverse data in real time. ADX is intended for data analysts, scientists, engineers, and cybersecurity professionals who need to efficiently analyze and gain insights from massive data sets. ADX is available as part of Microsoft's Azure's cloud services and can be accessed at any time, providing on-demand data analytics capabilities. ADX is hosted on the Microsoft Azure cloud platform, offering global accessibility and scalability for users across different geographic locations. ADX is utilized to quickly and efficiently analyze large volumes of data in real time, enabling organizations to make data-driven decisions, detect patterns, and gain valuable insights for improved business outcomes. ADX achieves this functionality through a distributed and highly scalable architecture, allowing users to ingest, store, and analyze diverse data sources seamlessly, using a query language called KQL. The rest of the how is what this video is all about, so let's get into it. To get started, grab the companion guide from the link in the show notes below. Also, if you like this content, please make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. And we're back. Okay, as promised, we're going to talk about the Azure Data Explorer. We have our companion guide with ADX. And the first thing we want to do is talk about the platform, which is ADX is a platform offered by Microsoft. It's great for research scientists. You do need an account to get into this. And I'm going to go to accountmicrosoft.com. If you don't have one, this is where you would go visit. I'm going to click on mine and it's going to automatically, I'll slide this over here. It's going to automatically log me in because I already have an account. Then once you have an account, come back. We're going to go to the Data Explorer Azure, and this is going to be the database or the information that we will be training on. This is the link, and I will also bring this over into the big stage here so you can see that. So while you're creating your account, I'm going to select the action items that we have completed. We have visited the ADX page, we created or logged in, and now we have our data on this side here. So I'm going to tick that off as complete. So now here we are on the ADX side of things. And what we want to do is just make sure our screens are looking good, is just get a quick overview of the lay of the land. So over here we have the connection pane. Now there are a number of databases here. The main thing here is the cluster. We are in the KC7 Cyber.East US2 cluster. There are a number of databases here. There's the Acme database. There's other databases here that we don't have to really take a look at right now. I'm going to just show you what's going on here. So we'll visit these in future episodes and courses. For now, we just want to focus on the Balloons over Iowa database. So here we have the connection pane. Over here, there is a query tab. This is actually the workspace that we will actually work in, this area here. And this is where we actually put in the commands, which we will see shortly. And the results of those commands come into the results grid. So just real quickly, we looked at the connection pane here. We looked at the query tab over here. We have the workspace and we have the results grid. So we come back, let's do a little housekeeping on this side here. And let's just get a good sense of the Balloons over Iowa database. So we have Balloons over Iowa is a company that makes balloons for big reveal parties. So they have all of these different types of balloons that they can go ahead and when you want to do a big party. It's a great company. It's doing well. And we are tasked as a junior cybersecurity analyst to keep them safe from bad actors. Now they have 8 databases that you can see here. So really one database. This is the Balloons over Iowa database. And we also have 8 tables in those databases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And each table has some records in it, and basically we record all kinds of different things that's happening with the company. And this is how, as a cybersecurity analyst, we can go ahead and take a look to see what's actually happening here. So let's tick that off, and we're going to actually do one of the commands here. So the first one we want to take a look at is the employees. We're going to get a sense of the employee database. Now I can do this a couple of ways. One, I can just double click on the employees and it'll put it in there. This is a little wonky, so let's just clear this whole thing out. So I can go ahead and hit the employees database just like you see here, and the first command I'm going to do is do a take 5. I want to take a look at 5 records from that database, and I see in the employees database this is the output. So this is the table. This colon or this pipe symbol is where we start to put in our commands. I'm using the take command and I gave it a value. So this is my operator and this is the value, take 5. I could have done a take 3. It would only give me 3 records here. Or I can do a take 10 and it'll give me 10 records here. So we like to use the take 10 as a quick way to get a lay of the land of the database, or I should say the table. And I also want to give myself a little bit more real estate because this is a particular big table. I'm going to collapse the connection pane because we don't need it right this moment. And I want to take a look at all the different headers for this table. So we have a timestamp, we have a name, we have user agent, which is essentially the browser that they're using, an IP address. Each employee in the ADX platform, or I should say in the Balloons over Iowa, has a unique IP address. If you remember in class, this is a unique logical address that allows you to connect to the internet and connect to IP-based resources. We usually call it the IP address. We also have an email address. This is, most people know what that's all about. This is how you can connect with everyone, particularly over Gmail or Outlook. We have the company domain, which is iowaballoons.com. This is the username. It's a unique identifier for a user to log on to systems. And we have their title or their role and the host name of the computer that they're using. All of this is kept in a table and we can continue to monitor that. So this is the employees table. Let's go ahead and take a look and expand this. And I'm going to hit enter again. Now, something I didn't explain. How did I actually get into this here? When I have these selected, I can hit the run command, and that's what actually runs these commands here, or actually executes it. I'm going to do the same thing with email. I have a new line here. This time I'm going to type it. I hit enter. I automatically get the pipe symbol, and I'm going to do a take 4 on the email. And if I want to run this, if you see here it's slightly highlighted in a light color blue, that means this section is highlighted. I can hit run and I'm going to get a different output here. So I'm going to get email specific information for this table. I have a timestamp. I have a sender. This is someone who has sent emails in this table here. We also have a reply to. So this is someone from outside the company. So this is We Sell Balloons, a different company than Iowa, Balloons over Iowa. This is an outside sender. They say to reply to this sender, you can use the same address here, but maybe you can set something up differently. The recipient was an Iowa Balloons.com recipient. In this case, it was Gary Fan. And we see the subject. This is the subject title. Now, this is important from a cybersecurity perspective, which is we only have flow control information. So let me tighten this up a little bit so you can see. We don't actually have the content in the cybersecurity logs. We don't have the content of the emails. We just have what we would call, like in IP networking, net flow. We have net flow information. We know the flow of information. We know the timestamp that this message came in, who was it sent to, the subject, whether it was accepted or not, true or false, and any links that were clicked or in the email. And that's it. We're not trying to invade anyone's privacy. We're just trying to get a sense of what emails are coming in and out. If we needed to do a deeper dive, we can go into the email system and actually take a look at those emails. But usually there's some type of governance or oversight at companies that allow us to do that. So I have a lay of the land for the email, which is the take 4. This is good. And let's go ahead and take a look at another table. In this case here, I'm going to look at outbound browsing. Outbound browsing is what you would think. It gives us information about who was visiting sites outside of the domain. And in this case here, I use the run command to execute this. I can also make sure it's highlighted with the light blue and hit Shift Enter. And Shift Enter is going to give me the same results as hitting the run button. So in this case here, we don't need the tables here. We're going to collapse this to give us a little bit of research, a little bit more of real estate, I should say. And we take a look at the columns. So we have our timestamp. We have our method, it's a get method, essentially a browser going out to a web server and pulling the information. And we see a unique IP address. This is the source IP address. And then we see the URL that was visited. So this gives us a lot of information as to what sites our employees are visiting, and it's all collected in the outbound browsing table. So this is great. So we've done this on our housekeeping side of the fence. Now let's go ahead and take some time, and on your own, and I'll just be here just hanging out, we're going to do the rest of the take 5s for the remaining of the tables, and I'll hang out here while you go ahead and take a look at those. You'll start off with the authentication events screen. Okay, give us 5 minutes or so. Okay, and we're back. Nicely done. So I just did a quick take 5 of the different tables here so we can get a lay of the land. And the way to take a quick peek at this is you make sure this part is selected, and you can go ahead and hit run, and we get to see the information that we're looking for. I'm going to collapse this particular one so you can see the employees table. And again, timestamp, name, user agent, IP address, email address. We can do the same thing for email. And instead of hitting the run, I'm going to do Shift Enter again. And that's going to give me a quick heads up of the subject lines here. And we'll do the same thing with outbound browsing. Outbound browsing gives us a sense of what's happening in terms of the source IP, which goes back to each employee. It gives us a sense of what web browser they're using and the sites that they have visited. Let's take a look at authentication events. I'm doing the Shift Enter, and this tells us if the host name for this source IP, which in this case it's the mail server, what client are they using, the username, and were they able to either successfully log in or not. So we have login success or failures here in the results tab. And also we have a password hash, which, as you know, we do not store passwords. We store a hash of the passwords on the system and we sort them. And a hash is basically a function that allows you to go one way that's easy, very difficult the other way. In other words, we can take the password, run it through an algorithm like SHA-256, come out with a hash, and that hash is unique to this password and this user, if that's what they're using here, and also is very difficult to determine what the password is if you only have the hash, if not impossible. Okay, so let's look at file creation. I'm going to take file creation. I make sure it's highlighted with a little bit of the blue here. I click run. And in file creation, it gives us a sense of the host name, the computer. We see the hash of the file that was created and where the file was actually run or saved or executed. And we see the path. So this is where we would find the app installer on this particular machine, which goes back to a particular user. Okay, now let's take a look at PassiveDNS. And again, we'll go over all of these as we continue with this. Wanted to give you a good comprehensive overview of what the logs look like that we'll be working with. So with PassiveDNS, DNS, as we know, is the domain naming system where we convert friendly names to IP address names. For example, this petrographical_.net, we would put that into a browser, it would resolve to this IP address. And the reason why we want to have an external passive DNS is that when we're doing good operational security, if we have an IP address here, we may not want to visit it directly because there could be malicious software that's going to be downloaded on your computer that you're using to visit the site. Or just like we have these extensive logs, threat actors or other agencies and entities have threat logs also. So we may not want to go there directly. What we can do is use third-party software or services like PassiveDNS, and we can look at these domain to IP relationships on a different table, which is what we have here, and it's also good practices of operational security. Then we also have ProcessEvents. I make sure that it's highlighted here. I only want this one here, so I'm going to just do the run, and I see the process events, and the process tells us exactly that, which is what process is running on a particular host machine. So we have the process, in this case here's the command line. We have the parent process that's actually kicked it off. We have the command line, what did they use? So this one here was using consent.exe. This is the process name, the hash, which is a unique signature, the hosting of the computer, and the username. This will be more important when we actually go ahead and take a look at some of the logs and start to answer some very basic junior analyst cybersecurity questions. And then last but not least, we have our inbound browsing. We want to take a look at all of the activities of the sites, of what was actually visited within the organization. So in this case here, Iowa Balloons has its own website or web services under this domain here. These are the users who actually visited the iowaballoons.com, let's say web server, internal web server, or maybe their intranet. So there we have it. We have a quick look at the 8 tables. We did a take 5 or take 10 or take 3 just to get a sense of what our logs look like. The next part of this is what we're going to do is start answering some of those junior analyst questions, but wanted to give you a quick overview of the ADX platform. Okay, so now that we have a lay of the land, if you will, of the tables and the records in each table, we're going to do some housekeeping, and we're going to actually query some of these tables here. So I'm going to leave all of these here for references, and then once we run out of space, I'll show you how we can collapse some of these here. So I want a new line, I'm at line 25, and we're going to use the where operator. So the where operator is basically what you think it would say is where in this table or row is there information. So we'll go to the employees tab. I'm going to double click it. It's going to automatically put it in here, and I'm going to say where and name. So first let's do a take. Let's make sure we're in there so you can see this better. I'm going to do a take 3 so we can see the values. I'll collapse the connection pane, and we're doing employees take 3. These are the results of this query. So I have a timestamp, name, user agent, IP address, and I want to know a username Michael. So let's go ahead and find Michael. So I'm going to say in employees, I'm going to say where name, and in this case here, I'm going to say has, open quotes, and we're going to just put Michael in here. I don't need that little extra piece in here, and I'm going to run it. And I see I have a number of users where their name has Michael in here. Now keep in mind, when I use the has operator, the has operator has part of the query value. So any hit with Michael will come up here. And if I just do a space, let's just say I want to see Michael H. I want to see who's Michael H. I can do a space, and let's see what happens. And I'm expecting, okay, some Michael H's to come in here. So it still has Michael in there. Let's do Michael H, and let's see what happens. No Michael H, right? So this is where we have a little bit of a problem. If you want all the Michaels and it has Michael in it, that's great. Sometimes we may want to use the contain operator, the contains operator. So I want all of the Michael H's. And let's go ahead and do that. Clean that up a little bit. And I see there's Michael Herman, Michael Haddix, Michael Hassinger. So interchangeably, depending on what you're trying to do, you may work with the contain or the has operator. But the main point of this portion here was the where. We want to know where there's someone with the name Michael, and we were able to do that with the has operator. We saw contain just momentarily. Let's do something more specific. We're looking for Michael Garrity. If we're looking for an exact match, we do the double equal, and we're looking for Michael Garrity, and we're looking Garrity, I should say. And here's Michael Garrity. Let's see who he is. And now we have a direct match. Only one Michael Garrity in the company. This is the timestamp when it was created. We have the user agent that he uses. Here's his unique IP address. Only one employee in the company has this IP address because IP addresses are unique within the environment that you created in. This is Michael Garrity's email address, and so on and so forth. This is his username. So great. Let's go ahead and tick that off. And now we have a question based on the items that we have here. It says each employee at Balloons over Iowa is assigned an IP address. Which employee has the IP address of 192.168.2.191? Okay, so first let me just copy this to make this a little bit easier for myself. And I'm assuming it's going to be in the employees table because we're going to look at it here. We see the IP address column. So I'm going to get rid of this from about here and just do a Control K. You know, that just kills the line, almost any command line. And I'm going to say where IP address, and you see this little autofill. It starts to do a little code hinting for me here. Great. I want an exact match. I'm going to open up the open quote, put in the 192, and let's see. It says Ronald Walker was the person that has this IP address. So great. This is the IP address we're looking for. We see Ronald Walker, and this is fantastic. Okay, we have another way we can do this as well too. So I'm going to get rid of the where. We know Ronald Walker is the employee with the IP address of 192.168.2.191. We can answer that question if we were a SOC analyst, and that was the question that came up to us. Really easy stuff. Let's do another way here. I can do a search. I can use the search command. So you see the search command. I type SE and it automatically starts to hint at some of the options here. If I hit tab, it automatically completes. I do an open quote, and I'm going to put in the IP address that we were asked for in the previous. So it's 192.168.2.191. Close it out, and I get the same result. So this is a little bit different, where I'm searching across the entire table with the search command, whereas in the where command, I was searching a particular column. In this case here, it was the IP address column. So just wanted to quickly contrast. We'll see this again as we continue to dive in and follow some of the threat actors that may be in our system. So we saw the where, we saw the has operator, we saw contains, we saw exact match, also search. And in this case here, let's move on to a different table. And I'm starting to run out of a little bit of real estate. Actually should be on this side. I'm running out of a little bit of real estate here. And here's what I can do. Some of these I don't need, and you see these little down arrows or carrots, and I can collapse them. I may want to come back to them later, so I didn't want to delete them right away, like email and take 4 and so on and take 5. I may want to run these. Like for example, this email, take 4. I have it selected, I hit run, and I just want to get the 4 records here. And I want to do a little bit of work on this portion of the workspace. So I collapse the other ones, and this is just preferential, and it gives you some housekeeping. So on the email, there's a couple of things I can do here. After the take 4, here's what I can do, which is I don't want the take 4 to run anymore. I want to actually comment that out. And I can use the double slashes. If I do double forward slashes, it makes this non-executable. This is great for commenting. So if we're working together in a team and I want to put a comment in here and I say, be careful with this command, I can do that and it won't be a problem because it's not actually running. But the reason why I wanted to mention that here is we got lucky with this table. When I run the email like this here, and I just hit enter without this command is not being run. This is essentially like deleting it without deleting it. What's happening is it's going to look at all of the records in the email table. In some cases, it's not that bad. If you look here, we have 16,985 records. It just so happens it was able to list all of them. On a big database or a big table, they could be literally hundreds of thousands of records, and that could be problematic, which is why we were doing a take 10 or a take 5. If I wanted to get the count, I can just use the count command. I can just go ahead and put in the pipe operator, which you see here, and it says, look at all the different things I can do here. I can use count, and count will give me the 16,985. And that's all of the records in this table of the tables in the email table. So that's why we're concerned about this here. On some other tables are not as forgiving because there's lots of events. So we want to make sure you're either limiting them with a take 5 or take 15. In this case here, I just wanted to quickly highlight that. Okay, so we're down here in email. I'll leave email up there. We have the real estate, is fine. I'm going to type it here. And our question here is, we want to do a quick take 3 so we can get a sense of what's happening. And we see that it gives us the sender, the reply, the recipient. We saw that before. And the question for us is, how many emails did Betty Land receive? Okay, so first we need to find Betty Land's email address. Maybe we can do on the recipient side of it. But I'm going to go back to the employees table. Let's see that. And I'm just going to do a quick take 4. And then I'll hit Shift Enter to run that. And I'm looking to see employees here. So these are all the employees, and name is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to say where name has Betty. Let's see if that works for us. Name has Betty. Okay, so there's 3 Bettys in here, and the Betty we're looking for is Betty Land. Okay, so I'm going to copy this into the buffer. I'm going to go back to email and run and see what do we have here in the recipient. So the question here is, how many emails did Betty Land receive? Okay, so first let's go ahead and just do a quick listing of all of those. So we're going to do where recipient is a direct match to Betty Land, and we had copied that into buffer. And let's see what do we have here, and we'll just run that Shift Enter. Okay, lots of them here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we want to do a quick count. We saw that before. I'm going to use the count command, and we say 17. So if we had to answer this question here, how many emails did Betty Land receive? Great, 17. Perfect. So we'll do a little housekeeping here, and that's the beauty of this database. We want to be able to query the database in a way that makes sense. Now, let's go into a little bit more complex queries to set up our training, so that way we can get into the KC7 side of the house where we actually do some threat hunting and go ahead and do some cybersecurity research. So on this side here, we're looking at compound queries and a distinct operator. So in this case here, we want to get unique values. Sometimes just getting a count, they can be duplicates there, and we want to pull out only unique values. So in this case here, we want to follow this question, which is how many of the organization users sent emails? Okay, we want to make sure that we get a good sense of this here. So we'll go back to the employees or the email table, and I'm just going to do a take 3 on that. Okay, and now we're looking at the domain here, and we know it's that the Iowa balloons domain. Okay, so that's fine. So let's go ahead and do this here. We're going to say where sender has Iowa. So we just want to see all the people, right? So I'm going to do Iowa balloons. It gave me an autocomplete option, and I just want to take a quick look at this. This is going to give me all of the records where the sender has Iowa balloons. So it's all of these here, 9,300. Wow, that's quite a bit, right? So 9,392 records. But we want distinct senders. Not just everything that went out, but we want a distinct sender. So we're going to say where the sender was distinct. And that drops it down quite a bit to 729. If we really want to write this so that way we can write a report, we can do the count, and this 729 jives with what we have here. And this is how we could quickly take a look at the distinct operator. It's distinct to where the sender has Iowa balloons, and then from there we want to know which one of those were distinct. Okay, let's go ahead and do another question here, which is how many employees received emails with the term UFO in the subject? Okay, we don't know. So I'm going to get rid of all of this. I think I'm happy with that. Plus, it's good to repeat these commands over and over again. I'm going to do a take 5 just to get a sense of what's available. I see the subject is what I'm looking for, and I want to see any email that had UFO in the subject. So I'm going to do a where subject, and I'm going to do contains UFOs, and let's just see what we get here. So there was 936 records. I think I'm okay with that. I also want to do a distinct, and in this case here, let's see if what's the question here. Received emails with the term UFO. So on this one here, I'm going to be specific. We saw that before. I'm going to do has, because we're looking for that particular term. And let's see what that looks like. We still get that here. We also want to make sure there are no duplicates in here. So we're going to say distinct subject. This looks a little bit better. And let's see, we're going to look at, this was where the subject. We also want to go ahead and look at the recipient. So this is where recipient has Iowa balloons, right? So we're going to do Iowa balloons. It did that for us with an autocomplete. We do distinct subject. We have 520 records. We want to do a distinct recipient, at this point. I like the 441. We do a count. And let's analyze this in a moment. So what did we do here? We said we wanted to know where the subject has UFOs. Great. Where recipient has Iowa balloons and a distinct recipient. And we did that because we had the information from the take 5. So if I go to my email and I just go up here, I'm going to keep this command here. I'm just going to do a take 5. So looking at this command here, we have where subject, somewhere it has UFOs. The recipient has Iowa balloons. We want distinct recipients, and we just wanted to do a count, and we came up with our number of 441, and that looks good. So this is how we would use the distinct operator. Okay, now let's move over to tracking down a click, outbound browsing. So in this case here, we want to take a look at activities that users were visiting outside of the iowaballoons.com domain. So in this case here, there's a table. Let's take a look at it. It's called Outbound Browsing. So I'm going to go down here to line 41, Outbound Browsing, and we'll just do a quick take 5 on that. So we'll do take 5. Excellent. And on the take 5, we see we have the close this. So we have a little bit more real estate. We have a timestamp. We have a get method, which is essentially visiting a web server. This is the source IP. And this is the user agent. Looks like it's essentially Chrome. And this is the URL that was visited. Now we want to know, okay, what did Jorge visit? How many unique websites did Jorge? Unique is a tip here because we're going to use the distinct operator that we saw before. Okay, so first and foremost, let's go back to the employee. And I have one up here, employee where name has, I'm going to try Jorge. Maybe there's only a few Jorges. There was only a few Bettys. Let's say good. So we have Jorge Hardwick, and we see his IP address is .0.142. I'm going to copy that, and I want to do a take 5 on the outbound browsing, and it's source IP that I'm looking for, the one that I just copied. So I'm going to say where source IP. I want exact match, open quote, paste Jorge's IP address, and we do a switch here, just shift enter, and I see these are all the URLs that he visited. They were 11. I also want to make sure that they're distinct URLs, so I'm going to do the pipe command, use the distinct command as well, and URL. Just to be sure, it still stays at 11 records. I see that here, but just to be sure, again, we may want to run this script later. I'm going to pipe count and 11. I can open this up to actually see the count here on the script, but for now, that's all we wanted to do. We wanted to take a look at the sites, the number of sites that were visited. If I comment this out with the 2 forward slashes, it doesn't do the count. It actually goes ahead and lists the URLs that were actually visited. And this is good for reporting purposes because, again, we're junior analysts and we may be reporting up the chain to a more senior cybersecurity analyst, and we want to give you different options on how to collect this information. At this point here, I can copy and paste, I can export, and we'll talk about exporting and reporting in future episodes. Okay, so we're good here. We'll do the check mark. And let's go back to the PassiveDNS and operational security, or OPSEC, that we were referring to when we did the take 5 of the PassiveDNS record. Now, we want to know how many records contain a bad word in the PassiveDNS. So in order to do that, we'll go to the PassiveDNS. Let's go ahead and look at the connection pane here. I'm going to give us a new fresh space here. We're in line 46. I'm going to go into PassiveDNS. I double click it here and just do a quick take 3 so we can see the first 3 records of that table. So not too complicated here in this case here. So we can collapse this for more real estate. We see we have a timestamp, we have IP and domain. It would be great if this was consistent, like source IP, IP address, or IP, but no big deal. We can write scripts to message that as long as we know this is the IP address, the IPv4 to be more specific. Okay, so the question is, we want to know how many, let's say it contains the word infiltrate. Okay, so I can do this a couple of ways. We saw that before. So it's the domain that we're looking for. This is the header that we're looking for. I can do this a couple of ways. I can do where domain has, and I'm going to do infiltrate. So let's just type that in. And we see a number of domains that have infiltrate in there. Okay, great. Let's see if contain will give us a slightly different. So I'm going to use contains in here. One, I put it in the show notes. I happen to like contains because if there's a little bit more, I'll get that information in there. This was only looking for infiltrate. So this is good. And we see good, we have our PassiveDns, we have 10 records in here. So it says where a domain contains infiltrate. I'm happy with it. And we do a take 10 on it. And then we also want to do is what IP domains did the domain cheeseburgerinfiltrate.com resolve to? Okay, so this one's a little different. So we're going to see if the term has it. So I'm going to copy this so that way we don't have to do a lot of work here. So just to finish this for this exercise so you can see it, I'm going to do a count. And we see it was 10 that contains infiltrate. Okay, and this one here, we're going to go back. And I want to go and take a look at the field again. We know it's domain, so I'll get rid of all of this. And this is really good stuff here in terms of our initial training. This will get you up to speed in no time. So this is what's good about all of these here. And then we're going to say where domain, I'm going to say contains. I'm going to paste infiltrate. And then I shift and I run. And I see 2 domains come back. So I have domains that resolve to 40.208.15.1 and cheeseburger infiltrate goes to 208.8.99.196. So it says what IPs did the domain? Once again, junior analyst, we're asked a question. Any one of these 2 would be right. I would submit both of them if we were doing a report as our first day as junior cybersecurity analysts. Okay, great. So we're going to do a check mark and we're almost there. And for our basic initial training, that'll prepare us for some active threat hunting and looking for bad actors within our domain environment, more specifically the IowaBalloons.com company, which we've been hired to do some cybersecurity analyst work for them. Okay, so let's do some let statements here. So we have a couple of ways of combining statements because as you notice, we're moving around from different tables from time to time, getting information from the employee table that needs to go into the outbound browsing table. And although we can do this manually, let's start using a little bit more of efficient command line queries so we can make our work much more easier for ourselves and reuse these commands if necessary. So here's our main question that we're trying to address here. How many unique URLs were browsed by employees named Karen? Okay, so this one is pretty easy. So first and foremost, let's do the easy part of this. Let's go to the employees table and let's see how many employees we have who are named Karen. So we're going to do where name has, open that up, Karen, and see what do we have here. So we have 2. We have Karen Unger and Karen Kimball, and we see their IP addresses here. Okay, so a couple of things we can do here is I can copy this IP address for Karen Unger or Karen U, and we're going to go into the outbound browsing. So we want to know how many unique URLs were browsed. So that means we're going to outbound browsing. If I'm not sure, I can open this up, go to outbound browsing, and go ahead and double click that. And I want to do a quick take 3 to see what the tables are. And what are we looking for? This source IP. Okay, so I'm going to say where source IP equals, and we're going to do a direct match here. Great, and we're going to do a count. I got 18 records. I could see it over here, but just for command line purposes, I'm going to run it, and we see that Karen Unger went to 8 specific URLs. So we're going to do, I'm going to make a little comment to myself here. So I'm going to say Karen U visited 18. Okay, so now we have to go back here in employees and we see there's a Karen K as well. And her IP address is 2.88. So I can just go ahead and make this an 88. And we see Karen K visited 9, right? So 9 records. So I can go ahead and do, these are none. So I'm going to do a Karen U visited 9 for a total of 27. Now, as you see, this is a little bit complicated, right? This is not the most efficient. It doesn't scale if we had to do this. And as you can see here, there's a more efficient way using a let statement. But I wanted to show you that, yes, you can build these from scratch piece by piece, and breaking it down this way was very helpful. So first and foremost, let's do this part of it. So we want to go into the Employees tab to answer this question. How many unique URLs were browsed by employees named Karen? Okay, great. So we're going to say, using the let command, I'm going to say let URL underscore browse. This is going to be a piece of code that I'm probably going to reuse over and over again. And I'm going to say equal employees. So that means we're going to the employees table and we're going to look for where the name has Karen. Okay, great. The other thing we're going to do is a new command line, pipe, and I'm going to say we want a distinct IP. So we know IP address is what we're looking for here. This is a distinct IP address. So we want only the Karens and the distinct IP addresses. And we're going to put a semicolon because we're going to join this whole piece, this piece of information. We're going to pipe it or redirect it to the outbound browsing table. So we're going to say where source IP is in this statement here, which is called URL browse. So I'm going to do URL browse. I'm going to hit enter, get rid of this, and this is going to give me the count of that command here. So basically we're combining the employees query and calling it in the outbound browsing. Let's go ahead and see if that works. It was already selected. I hit run and 27. And I have 27 URLs. This is awesome, and this vibes with our original breakdown where Karen U visited 18, Karen K visited 9, gives us a total of 27. More importantly, we have a more efficient and scalable way of answering questions similar to these by using the let statement. So this is where we are. We have, believe it or not, these are the basic skills that we need as a junior cybersecurity analyst to go ahead and do some threat hunting and do some research and do some reporting for anyone who may ask, or more importantly, just keeping our environment safe as we continue to learn cybersecurity in a fun and engaging way. So I encourage you to practice these, start hunting, and in the next episode, we're going to do this in a gamified fashion by visiting the KC7 platform. This is a video that's part of a series of videos. This is part 1 of 2. The next video is kc7cyber.com, where we use these skills in a game. I can't wait to see you there. Click on kc7cyber.com and let's get started.